Hello everybody, welcome back to Punk Right. My name is Smee, and today I have a very special guest, a colleague, friend, co-worker, and fellow editor for a new project that is through Punk Right Publishing called Hope for Paradise, a collaborative project of a children's book. Stick around, don't go anywhere. So before we get started, Steffi, tell us a little bit about yourself.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Smee, for having me here and making this video together.
Mr. Smee, you're going with Mr. Smee.
I'm going with Mr. Smee. So, I'm Steffi, and I've been working abroad for a few years now. I teach 4th grade, and I'm very passionate about inquiry. And working alongside with Mr. Smee, I've also become very fond of writing and reading. So yes, he has very positively influenced me.
So the project that we have done is a brand new project in terms of a children's project. So when I first had this idea of Punk Right Publishing, I never honestly imagined doing a children's book. And you came with this idea, but really it's not just your idea, it was a bigger idea. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. It was a part of our inquiry unit, so we were learning about the Earth's resources, and the main idea was that, you know, rights and responsibilities are involved in sharing the Earth's resources. When we got to the end of the unit, I asked the kids, how would you like to show your learning? And they said, we'd like to write and illustrate a book. And that's where it all began.
No small project.
No small project. And obviously, that was challenging for me because I've never had a batch where students said, we want to write and illustrate a book. And I was like, is this serious? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, you mean like you want to publish it? Because if that's your goal, then we have to work really hard on it. And they were like, yes, that's our goal. We'd like to have it published.
So what do they see in terms of the value of publishing?
They wanted to inspire, and that was one of the biggest goals that they had when they started talking about the book. They said, we want to inspire other kids and other people to care for the earth. And I thought, okay, if you're going to do that through writing, then that's a great idea. Let's go for it.
And to inspire, you got to put it out there, you know?
Absolutely.
So the thing that for me that was, when I first heard of your idea, and you came to me and I'm like, oh man, that sounds big. How do you get so many people involved? Because you're looking at a class of what, 10?
17.
17, oh my God, I was 10. 17 kids who have their own ideas, and then, you know, taking it from the initial stages to actually publishing that's a long process. How'd that happen? It was a long
process. So we were just talking about this a while ago, how it started in 2020. I think it was 2020 November when the students said, okay, this is how we want to share our learning. Can we write and publish a book? And after we said, okay, let's get started on it, the first thing that we did is create a storyboard. And then they decided who's the character. They worked along with the story arc and the plot of the story. What is the main idea? How do they want to show what's the problem? What's the climax? What's the solution? So we talked about all the different elements. And then I divided the students into small groups. And each group wrote a story using the story arc that they created. And then later we brought all the pieces together and we looked at parts that we really liked, and then we put them all out in a document.
Yeah, one of the things, like that type of project, you have this, you know, this in psychology, it's called the groupthink, where the product is less than actually what it could be because you have so many hands involved. So that distillation, I guess, of ideas must have been a challenge.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
It was challenging, but it was also a great opportunity for the students to collaborate. And I think a huge part of, you know, my philosophy is getting students to collaborate, work together. There are going to be times where you agree on things, and there's going to be times where you have to kind of, you know, stand back.
So I can live with this, right?
I can live with this. Okay, maybe that one is a better idea for the book. So I think giving the students an end goal and a goal to work towards too, it just made them feel like they were a community and they were all working towards something, and they were all equally enthusiastic about achieving that. So yeah.
The thing that was striking for me when you first came with the first rough draft, and you said, well, there are a couple types of children's books that we can make with this, you said. And there was an issue of length, because when you have so many children involved and they have so many ideas, they write and overwrite, as we all do. But then how do you actually get the simplified story? So can you tell me about that crossroad, that decision that you had to make?
I think what we both actually asked the kids this question, like, what style of writing do you want this to be? Yes, you have a huge story here, and it was kind of like a realistic fiction because that's what they were learning in their literacy units. But then we asked them, how is this book going to look? And they were like a children's picture book. And then we studied a lot of children's picture books. I remember bringing so many examples from the library with illustrations, different styles of illustration, different lengths of text. And then they looked at it all and they said, wow, we really have to cut down everything that we have there.
Okay.
And that was challenging because I remember
Yes.
telling you, like as an adult, I was like, man, I haven't done something this challenging, like to take a whole, I guess it was probably 500, 600 words that they had written or more, and to tell them like, okay, we've got to write this down into simpler sentences, which also means even the story arc is to the point. There's
Yeah, and you went from this narrative story to
To-
very, in the end, we've created a very, and I say we because there's a point where adults really have to look at the
Yeah.
minutia of that language and bring it down to its essential elements. The story is still there. It's a fantastic story, but how it looks from the beginning was striking. So you've just brought in another element now because when the kids decide that, well, actually, we don't want this to be a narrative story, we want it to be a picture book. Can you tell us about the pictures, the art?
Yeah. And so, like I said, we used a lot of mentor texts at that point. Like I took a lot of books from the library, and that served us as mentor texts. And they looked at how authors and illustrators would show what they are writing in so many different ways. And I think that itself opened up so much of their creative process for them because they had a certain idea of what illustration is, and they thought it was just going to be like us drawing it out and just basic coloring or shading, very few skills. But then they saw so many books where you could take pictures and put it there. You could use different materials. And it was from that the students came up with the idea of, let's make it look a little 3D. And they said, and this book is about earth and resources. And the idea and what they wanted to share with the world is recycling and reusing and reducing. And they were like, can we not do that in our illustration? And I was like, sure. And then I remember them going and gathering different materials that they could find, and they have used that in their illustration as well.
And now the collaborative project has grown because now you've had to involve another couple of people in this because
Yes.
it becomes an artistic project as well.
Right, that's absolutely right.
If you hold on for just one second, don't go anywhere. I'm going to go get some of those pieces. Right. Take a look at one of these. I don't know if you can see it great. I'm going to put it right here. This is one of these images that I find very striking about the story. And we're entering again a different level of the process of making this story, because how do we take this and put it into an actual book, which is a couple of different steps. Can you talk a little bit about how they developed their ideas for the motion and the pictures?
Yeah. So what they did is, I think that all of them split up and took different parts. So each, I forgot the word. What was that you taught me? This is a spread.
This is a spread. Very good. Good.
See, I'm learning too. So each spread was taken over by like 3 or 4 students. So there was someone making the sun out here. There was someone pasting all the 3D items on it. And then there were a few kids who were in charge of the main character.
Yeah.
So to have it consistent throughout the book, they stuck to those same groups so that Hope, the main character, looked the same across all pages.
And there is a slight difference. I'm going to have you hold that, if you can hold that one, just to show you, kind of how she does take on a bit of a different guise. But I'm totally impressed at how it kind of maintains the same figure all the way through the book. And when you see the book, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Great. So, Steffi, what do you hope to achieve in terms of like the overall message of this book? We're gonna put this together. Punk Right Publishing is, we're in the last stages. Hopefully by summer we'll have this out and be ready for purchase. But what is the expectation that you have for both your students, yourself, and
Right.
the process?
I think as an educator, for me, these kids that we teach right now, for me, they're the future of this world. And I am really happy, and this project really, really made me happy because it made me feel like I was able to inspire them to take on a challenging project. And what I admire is their resilience. They did it through the pandemic. We were online, we were doing hybrid model at one point, and then we came face to face for like 3 weeks maybe at the end of that school year. So to see that they wanted to pursue this project through all those different styles of learning that they had to accommodate, that makes me really happy as an educator. That tells me that they were really driven to do this.
I was also impressed by their persistence because
Yeah.
they spent a good couple of weeks here in the library just working and working and working.
Right.
It was messy. They were coloring, and it was very organic, but they saw it through to the end, which
Yeah.
I think, for all of you interested in writing books, whatever aspect of book writing you want to do, children's books or novels, seeing the project or any project through to the end is the greatest challenge. So I was pretty proud of them.
Yeah. And in terms of the book and the message that, I think I agree with the kids. It's about the earth. It's about sharing our resources. Many countries across the world are fighting. Even today, it's at the end of the day, it boils down to resources. Land, water, oil is what we are fighting for. So I hope that the book would spread the message of sharing those resources that we have, living in harmony, and how we can do that by being sustainable.
The beauty for me as well in terms of the collaboration of a book, even as an author, I've finished writing my second one, but I know that by the end of the process, so many people are involved that it makes it everybody's project.
Yep.
And there are it's just collaborative. It's a beautiful way to the end that is humbling as the individual. And so when you see so many people involved in this, it's pretty satisfying.
Very. 17 kids, 5 adults.
Yeah.
That was a great project to be a part of.
Well, congratulations, and
Thank
I'm
you.
excited to see how this comes out. Stay tuned here on Punk Right. We'll do some more videos in terms of the process of creating Hope for Paradise, the children's book, collaborative children's book. And we hope to have this out in June. Can we do it by June?
Yeah.
That's when do it.
That's our goal.
Sometimes our jobs get in the way, but we'll make it there.
We're full-time educators.
So stay tuned on Punk Right. Thanks for joining us today, and remember, whatever you do, you just keep on writing Punk Right.